Willpower is a stick that you beat yourself with, but willpower alone is not enough for mindset change. I'm going to share what really works. This is the Coaching Hub. I'm Ruth Kudzi. Let's get into it. We often beat ourselves up because we are led to believe that willpower and motivation are enough to change behaviour and to change our mindset. We can go on to social media, we can read books and they talk about how our mindset is so key. And what that can make many of us feel is it's my fault. How many times have you thought it's my fault? And I'll be honest, the reason that we don't do stuff is usually a me problem. But actually, let's look at that in a more compassionate way. So I'm going to be talking about mindset changes that stick and are not just those plasters that we put on. First of all, when we are coaching, lots of people think we just want to go to the future. But coaching is grounded in the present, looking at the future. So we cannot change what we do not know. So it's not like we just go, oh, we'll start to think positive. Why don't you just say a nice positive affirmation? Say that you are confident and you'll become it. And yes, of course, if we repeat that we're confident, our brain will start to believe it. However, if we do not feel it, our brain's going to be saying, why are you telling me this? You're not confident. So we need to actually do some exploration, digging into the present first. Anyone who's trained with Optimus will know that I am pretty obsessed with this. We have these ICF markers, which we assess people on. And so we need to go into our 7.1. We need to look at the reality so people can get that awareness. In terms of beliefs, beliefs are things that we hold as true. They are perceptual filters which mean that we behave in certain ways. I've always got this great one. I have got a belief that I am good at maths. And even when I say this, and even when I tell this story, it doesn't change my belief. I've got that belief because I was told from a young age I was good at maths. I remember when I started secondary school, to my horror, my maths teacher invited me to join Young Mathematician Society. I couldn't think of anything less cool. I would probably be a multimillionaire if I had. But anyway, I did not want to do that. I wanted to, read magazines and listen to Top of the Pops. So I had this idea that I was good at maths. And even when I was later on in my schooling, when I was in the top maths set and I didn't get great marks, I thought, oh, then maybe it was something for the test. Then a few years ago, probably about 15 years ago, I did an assessment to be part of a leadership program. And one of them was a maths assessment. And I remember them giving us all of our results. And I remember my coach saying to me, don't worry about this. Obviously it was one assessment. And I got in the bottom 5th percentile of everyone that had applied in the maths test. Now, because I believe I'm good at maths, I just thought, oh, there must have been something wrong with the test, rather than there must have been something about me, because my identity is I'm good at maths. So even though I've got evidence that says maybe I'm not, I ignore it. And that is how beliefs work. So we have these guiding principles, but if we don't know what they are, how are we going to change them? And, again, these have been built. That maths teacher, she was called Mrs. Wilkins. She really embedded that belief in me. So they can be embedded by teachers, society, parents, but they're not necessarily true. But our brain has a perceptual filter, which means the evidence that reinforces that belief we pay attention to, and evidence that doesn't, we don't pay attention to. It's actually quite unusual that I can think about a story of something that doesn't agree with a belief. So when we're working with clients, I always get them to think about helpful beliefs. So this thing that I think or I believe is helpful to me to achieve what I want to achieve. Again, what we're doing there is we're connecting belief with behaviour, with motivation, with purpose. But if we don't know what the helpful belief needs to be, and we don't know what our unhelpful beliefs are, which are keeping us stuck, how can we change? And there's a great activity that you can do, which I love, which is called the belief tree exercise. So imagine, and I'll put a link to this as well so you can have a look at it too. But imagine that you've got a tree in front of you. all of the things that you believe about yourself that are unhelpful for supporting you to go to where you want to go, those are your leaves. So maybe you have a belief, oh my gosh, that you're too old or too young to do something. You know, we all seem to have that belief. We're never the right. I don't know when the optimum key age is that is a perfect age, but we're too old, we're too young. Yeah. We never seem to be the perfect age. So maybe that's one belief. I'm too old to change careers. I'm too old to, honestly, there's so many examples and role models we can find on this. I'm too old to start weight training. Oh my gosh. See some amazing people online. But whatever our beliefs are, we can write them as leaves. But then when we've got the leaf, go back into actually what's the branch? So thinking about that branch as what is underneath that, like what is holding up that leaf? And then we're going into the trunk. Okay. So we're thinking about going backwards. What is it that has led this leaf to be there? So we're going underneath. And often, we have these core beliefs, and I don't know why, but I don't think I've ever worked with a client who has not got at some level of belief that they're not good enough. Yeah. I don't know if it's because humans are wired for connection, but we all seem to fundamentally hold that we're not good enough. But many of us can't even measure what good is. So actually, if we're just looking at that surface level, that leaf, and we're not going back to that branch and to that trunk to really help understand what is underneath, we're superficial. So what we want to do is we want to really understand the root. So going from the trunk into the root, where does it come from? And again, you can sometimes get some really light relief here. I had this belief as well around money, that when you have money, it's going to go from an observation of a friend's family situation in the 80s during the recession. So I was holding on to this. And when I recognized it comes from there. Okay, well, that was one example. I don't know why my brain decided to choose that example, not this example. I was able to get a little bit of peace. So we can go back to the origin and we can go, okay, knowing what I know about the world right now, how much am I still holding on to this? And it allows us to let go and move on. So the origin is great. Again, we have to be mindful as coaches is if there is trauma there, it may be that we need a referral. But often when I'm doing this work with people, it's often quite a nice release. Okay, I no longer need to hold on to that I've been holding for all these years, because now through however many years, I recognize that was one opinion or that was one person, or probably that teacher didn't even mean to say that to me, but they'd had a really bad day, whatever it may be. So we go back to the root and then we think about how are we watering that tree? How are we watering that belief? What are we doing that is reinforcing it? And then we can start to think about change. But it's difficult to change if we don't have that information. So again, when we're saying it's just willpower or it's just motivation, we can want to change. But if we don't know what we're changing, if we don't have an idea of that root and what we're doing to water it, how do we make it change? So then we can obviously build a new tree, can't we? Build a new belief. So identify what it is. And actually recognize how it's protected you. Make peace with that. What we might do as coaches is we might notice patterns as well. I'm noticing that whenever you're due to have a meeting with your boss, you start to feel like this. You've shared with me that whenever your child does this, it makes you feel like that. And then we can go deeper. When we notice, when we spot patterns, we always explore as well, because we might get it wrong. Yeah. We're only seeing things that our client is sharing. There might be a lot more going on. So we give them that space. So I say it so many times, coaches are detectives. We're helping our clients to understand themselves so then they can make changes. So let's go into the here and now. Then let's think, okay, so what would be a more helpful way of looking at this? Now, it's not like we just go, well, I'm going to feel that I'm good enough. Oh, great, that's it. Brilliant. Say an affirmation, that's gone. Again, goes back to neural pathways. We need to build a new pathway. A belief is a pathway. It's embedded in the basal ganglia. So we need to stop as much as possible that old belief, and we need to build a new one. We need to build a new pathway. We need to create new synaptic relationships. And, again, I am a super fan of James Clear, but I love his work. He says every action is a vote for the person that we want to become. I like thinking about the minimal viable action. So about a year ago, I made a commitment that I was going to exercise every day. So what is my minimal viable action? It is a 5-minute walk. That is my minimum. I am still somebody who exercises every day. Sometimes that will be it. Other times, I will do a 2-hour walk, or I will do a workout, or I will do, minimum commitment, helping our clients think about what is the first step, because actually this neural pathway is going to take time. So actually let's start to build brick by brick this new, or leaf by leaf, or branch by branch, this new way of seeing yourself. So actually letting people know it's going to take time. Letting them know that actually, yes, it's great to tap into motivation, but actually if you can create a ritual or routine that can be embedded. And think about how will they celebrate and how will they feel if they do become this person like me who exercises every day. What does that mean? It means that they have got more energy. It means that they can do the things they want to do. It means they can honor their commitments. So it's not about just going, how motivated are you? Well, where's your willpower? There's also that compassionate voice as well. Because with that willpower voice, when we don't do things, and of course we'll have days when we really don't feel like it. Maybe we will have overindulged on food or drink. Maybe we have got a virus. Actually, how do I allow myself not to make this commitment? There have been days when I've been ill. There have been days, oh my gosh, one day over Christmas, my personal trainer came to my house, and actually as soon as he got to the house, I was sick. Not a reaction to him. I'd obviously eaten something the night before. So I couldn't do it. But actually compassionately being with myself, even as someone who exercises every day and prioritizes their well-being, I'm not going to do it when I'm sick. That's just ridiculous. So allowing yourself to recognize that your motivation may wane, but your identity doesn't. So thinking about, who am I becoming? What behavior and beliefs are congruent? How do I start? And recognizing that at the beginning, it's going to be uncomfortable. And it's okay to have some discomfort. But we're thinking about a level of discomfort. Our brain and nervous system need to feel safe in doing it. It's why, I've coached so many people who have been told by coaches don't tell, told by coaches to go all in, to give up their job and start a business. And then they're not taking any action. I mean, that sounds weird, doesn't it? Especially if they need to make money. Why are they not doing anything? Their nervous system is so activated in fear because they are worried about money that actually it's shut down. They're in freeze. So we want our clients, maybe they feel a little bit of anxiety, maybe they feel a bit of worry, but we want them to be in a space where they still feel safe enough to take action. So minimum viable commitment, supporting them with the discomfort, supporting them with those voices and asking them whose voices they are, who are saying, well, you should just be able to do this. Change is hard. Change does require new routines and rituals. And sometimes that's about tapping onto things that we already do. But also it's about identifying what is not working, what is unhelpful, and changing to what is helpful. So I hope that you have found this helpful. I hope that you recognize that this work is hard work. And I hope that you celebrate every little step, because when you do, you create dopamine. And when we create dopamine, our brain loves it and we repeat the behavior. So celebrate, start small, identify what is hindering, find what is helping, and start taking those actions that support the person that you want to become. I would love to know what actions you're taking and what beliefs that they support. And if you want to find out more about this work, come and check us out at Optimus Coach Academy. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe and comment below.